All right, y'all, here we go. Welcome back to the No More Mr. Next Year channel. That's me. Got a new video for you today. And I think this is going to be a good one. Let's see how this goes. Stick with me this time. I think I got a good video for you today. Let's jump straight into it. That's what you do in good videos. So today we are talking about, got a good feeling about this. We're going to talk about BeltonPOE Situation again. And no, I'm not just going to endlessly milk this. This is the last video I'm going to make talking about it, but there was enough stuff going on with the whole BeltonPOE Situation that I honestly feel like a part 2 is warranted, because there's like a whole nother aspect. This isn't going to have anything to do with the stuff I talked about in the video that I made about a week ago. This is completely different, even though we're talking about BeltonPOE again. So today is BeltonPOE part 2 of 2. This will be it. This will be the end. Won't talk about it again. I might mention it in future videos just because there's just interesting lessons to be learned here. I truly do feel that way. And so today, for the part 2 of 2, the final conclusion, finale of this whole thing, what are we going to talk about if we're not going to talk about it? This was just like a purely ethical situation, right? Well, there was the kind of ethical side of it, but then there's like the money side of it. As I mentioned in the last video, I learned about BeltonPOE because apparently it's a channel that a lot of people that subscribe to my channel also follow. And, you know, I have similar interests too. I mean, I'm kind of interested in it. Like, I've never really known, like, how much money do you make, for example, when you do mirror crafting? What kind of returns do you get? Is it worth it? You know, I'm doing YouTube now. Maybe I should think about doing something crazy like this. It sounds interesting to me. Sounds kind of cool to me too. We're going to talk about I'm going to try to condense this to basically talking about 2 things today. We're going to talk about basically risk, and we're going to talk about getting that money. We're going to talk about getting those divvies, getting those divine orbs, making that money. We're going to talk about these 2 things. So we're going to talk about basically just making money, and we're going to talk about risk. And specifically today, when we're talking about making money, we're talking about essentially passive income. So like investing, you know, you have a way of making a bunch of currency early in the league, and then you have to basically figure out, like, what am I going to do with that? It's actually exactly the same as in real normal life. That's, again, one of the things I'm probably going to always mention about PoE. I like the fact that everything has like a real life analog, and it's the same in PoE. When you make 100 divine orbs early in the league, that gives you a lot of power to do things like investing. How do you invest in PoE? We're going to talk about that. So these are the 2 thrusts that we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and get into it. But first, real quick, as always, I'm going up in subscribers. Shout out to all my subscribers. Welcome to the club, to the gang, whatever here. Welcome to the group. And, you know, let me know what you think. I love getting the feedback on these type of videos in particular. If there's any videos, I'm doing this one pretty quick after the other one, but the next one of these type sort of just chatting videos won't be for probably a little while after this one. I'm going to go back to try to make some normal videos again. And as always, this is going to be a semi-long video, so I recommend you might think about putting me on in the background while you're doing some maps, or maybe go touch some grass, go for a walk, and you can just listen for, you know, about 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, whatever this turns out. So, hoo-wee. We got 300 subs. Pretty good. Pretty good. We're going to keep doing this 20-mile march style, 100 subs at a time, even though probably always going to be well over that number every time I make one of these. And every time I make one of these, maybe I'll kind of shout out my next milestone that I've hit with my subs. All right, let's go ahead and get into the video. So this right here, I know this is a big wall of text, but we're going to go through this because everything in this video is going to be about this page right here. So this text is text that I copied directly from BeltonPOE's YouTube channel. If you basically go back and look, there's like a community tab on YouTube. You know, if you go to BeltonPOE's channel and you go to the community tab, like there's not really anything, you know, there's no like videos of him responding to the whole situation that he got himself into. But if you go to the community tab and you go to the second to last post that he made, it's like a very long post talking about the situation. And he's giving his take about the situation. So, you know, if he gives his take, everything should be kind of, you know, positive and good from his angle. Ethically, maybe it is all positive and good, but then again, you have the actual money-making aspect. So I want to analyze some of the money stuff here, and I want to analyze some of the probabilities. of some of the things and talk about a little bit of math in this video. Let's talk about a little math. Supposedly people that subscribe to my channel should, in theory, be interested in some math topics also. So let's go ahead and start. So, and this is, again, it's kind of divided into the two parts of the two things we're going to talk about in this video today. So let's start with part one, okay? So somewhere in the extremely long community post that he posted, he said, and then, so for context, in the post, he basically talks about how they were making like an end game GG bow that they were then going to offer up for mirror service. So they were going to, put a bunch of money into making this bow, and then people are going to mirror it and they're going to pay fees to mirror the bow. So he talks about making the bow, and then he says, and then a 1 out of 107 probability chance of success lock. This is a Hinokora's lock. So a 1 out of 107 chance lock ended up taking 320 locks. So there was something in the craft that on average is basically expected to take 107 Hinokora's locks to get the result that they want. And so, if you think about the probability, it should take on average about 107 locks on average. That's pretty much how that works. Okay. So it ended up taking 320 locks. So a lot more than you would hope for. You hope to hit it around like maybe 107-ish. And then he said, it became my obligation to cover their debt. So what does this mean? What happens was basically all these people are feeding him currency at the beginning of the league. So everybody's dumping in these Hinokora's locks or whatever, divines, etc. And then there's kind of debt that's accrued because so basically, he's basically borrowing money from all these people essentially because they expect to get kind of paid back by him. So they all dump money in, they get the mirror to your item, and then the money starts rolling in. This is like passive income. It's like investing essentially. So essentially what you have here is you essentially have an investment. Everyone's pooling money together to buy this thing that's extremely expensive, except that there's probabilities here. In the real world, maybe you have 10 people go in together and they buy like an apartment complex or something, and then they get rent income from that. It's essentially the same thing here. Now, in this case, he's the one who's basically getting debt from all these people. So they're all pouring money into him, and now it's his obligation to cover the money that they put in. They have to, essentially what he's saying, they have to get paid back out. He has to pay these people back out. In fact, he even mentions in his post, I think he said something like, quote, like, it was my reputation on the line, something like that. So like once everybody dumps in like 100 divine orbs apiece early in the league, then his reputation is that he has to pay them back their 100 divine orbs. Otherwise, he's kind of scamming them, I guess. But the problem is all this stuff relies on probabilities. What happens when things go south and when things go bad? This is an interesting thing about all these topics I'm going to talk about in the video. I don't think I saw anyone anywhere, Reddit thread, any videos or anything. I don't think anyone's actually talked about this. So I think this is kind of an interesting angle. I'll be very curious to see what you all think about this. Did anybody put this together and think about this? BeltonPOE, I feel like he's kind of putting himself in like a really bad position when he does this every league. And we're going to talk about the math of that on the next page. And so then he said, so basically he gets all these things. They're doing these he's doing this, hitting it with Hinokora's locks, which are extremely expensive. So a lock, I have a note here, right now in the league, a lock is 200 divine orbs, just in case there's somebody that happens to not know about this. It's an extremely expensive item in the game. It's like one of the most expensive currency items in the game. Right now it's, 200 divine item. Now, obviously this is different because this is all happening at the beginning of the league, but still, this is very expensive. So they're all pooling money together. And it takes 320. So they're all pulling their money in. He's going through these locks, and then suddenly they're never hitting. So everybody keeps dumping money. He never hits the 1 out of 7 chance on the lock. So all the money is basically just being pissed away into the void. It's all just getting deleted. And then suddenly he's the one who's sitting in this position where he's, essentially got all these like debts that he has to repay, but he didn't get anything. There's nothing there to pay it back with because it all just went into the void essentially. So then what happens is then he said, my reputation is on the line. So then he said, I was pulling over 20 hours a day doing so, trying to repay and cover the debt of all these people. And then he mentions how he had to go to the hospital because basically his back was hurting so bad because he was playing 20 hours a day, grinding. It's so funny to me again, like not making as much content, not doing like whatever it was, OnlyFans or whatever. It's not OnlyFans. It's so stupid that OnlyFans, obviously, Patreon. Patreon, yeah. So Patreon, he's got a Patreon. He's not really, it's just, this whole situation, it's just, honestly, it's funny to me because it's just like, just imagining this whole scene is just kind of funny. Now, obviously, going to the hospital for back pain, it's not funny. Actually, it's sad. I know exactly what that's like. It's really sucks actually. Anyways, but it's just the thing that's just funny to me is it's like, it's just the choices. Again, everybody supposedly that watches this channel, supposedly y'all believe in choices. People make choices, so this choice is just kind of funny to me that you end up doing this when there's just so many other things you can do that are probably going to benefit you and profit from so much more than this. So that's the first thing. We're going to talk about the risk that he took on here. And then the second thing is this. So then he talks a bunch, the post's really long, and he says, as a PS, the BOE ended up making 42,000 divines in mirror service fees. So I don't know what exactly that means, but I'm assuming that means that's the profit. Like, I know what it means for a mirror service fee, but the question is, does that mean total profit? He says it made 42,000 divines. So is that like they got the cost back and they made 42,000, or is that just 42,000 total? And then he says, I personally spent 71 mirrors making this item, hundreds of hours and several weeks. The collective others, accumulatively, that's what was written, I think it's supposed to mean cumulatively, spent 7 mirrors. So it was a total of basically about 78 mirrors to make the item, and then they made basically 42,000 divine orbs. That's going to be the other main thing we're going to talk about this video. I didn't see anybody talk about any of this stuff. Is it just me, or is this like not good? Like how is this good? I thought being the big boy mirror crafter, I thought you were supposed to be like super rich. Like the thing is, you didn't really profit at all. 42,000 divine orbs profit off of 78 mirrors is like terrible, isn't it? And again, that's even assuming that that's even 42,000 of pure profit. So it didn't say. Does that mean you got the 78 mirrors that you paid in back and 42,000? I'm making this video. We're late in the league, so we're like, I think we're sitting at about 2.5 months into Settlers of Kalguur League right now. So we're late in the league. A mirror is currently 800 divines. I'm just gonna use 800 divines. I checked it right before I made this. So 800 divines per mirror, 78 mirrors. We're gonna talk about that. So that's the other thing we're gonna talk about, and then we're gonna talk about some alternatives. Maybe he could have made some, again, supposedly made some other choices. But okay, so let's start with the first thing. Let's talk about risk here. Okay, so how did he get himself in this situation? It's funny too, because people talk about the situation like you look at the cute dog videos. It's like I'm so surprised nobody. It's like it didn't really get caught. The fact that he's kind of one of the main points that he's kind of blaming this whole situation on is the Hinokora's locks problem. The problem of the fact that the bow should have gone smoother, but it didn't. And when it doesn't go smoothly, problems basically happen. Okay, so what happened? So he said there was a 1 out of 107 basically probability of, we'll say that equals P, the probability. And P equals, probability of success. Okay? So you've got a 1 in 107 chance of using the lock, and you get the outcome that you wanted. So first thing, okay, in case you don't, so let's talk about some probability stuff. So in case you don't know, let's just start with the absolute bare basics here. I would call this, personally, I believe, unless I'm making a horrible mistake here, I believe this is basically called, what's called in mathematics, a Bernoulli trial. A Bernoulli trial in mathematics is the fancy schmancy word of you basically have a trial, like you're flipping a coin into the air, and you're either going to get heads or you're going to get tails. And then heads equals, in the case of a fair coin, a 50% chance. Tails equals 50% chance. And then you're defining one of these as being like a success. So let's say heads is a success. Then this is called a Bernoulli trial, where and Bernoulli trials are defined by one thing, which is a probability of the success. So in this case, P, I hope I'm doing this totally off the cuff. I didn't look any of this stuff up really. So I hope I'm actually right on this stuff, but you'll definitely let me know in the comments if I'm not, I know that. But I'm pretty sure this is all right. So I believe a Bernoulli trial is defined as you have a probability of a success, and the trial has basically 2 outcomes, a success and a failure. And then you define the Bernoulli trial by P equals the percent chance, or the chance of the success. So BeltonPOE was engaging in these series of Bernoulli trials. And this is basically what Path of Exile pretty much is, for the most part. For the most part, everything in Path of Exile is you're hitting things with orbs and you're engaging in basically flipping these different coins. And each coin, every time you flip the coin in all these different items, there's basically a chance of success and there's a chance of failure. It's a little bit more complicated than that sometimes, but in this case, he said it was a 1017, 1 over 107 lock. So that means it's a Bernoulli trial. If you are like me and you're not like a god of probabilities, I'm not that great at probabilities, okay? If you want to be able to start figuring, I'm going to walk you through how we figure these things out. And if you want to be able to, you know, if you're dealing with these probabilities and you want to be able to figure out what's the chance of this, what's the chance of that, basically you're going to Google things related to Bernoulli trials, because that's what this is called in mathematics. So for example, you could say like, you know, what's the probability of getting a success after some number of trials when you're doing Bernoulli trials? That'll basically give you these types of answers when you go to Google to look these things up. I have to do that because I'm not that great at probabilities. Now, all I'm going to talk about today, so this is a Bernoulli trial. That's what's happening here. Mathematically speaking, it's a Bernoulli trial. And you can look up all the details about how to derive all these different probabilities and all the equations related to these different probabilities of different scenarios, depending on what you're interested in finding out. So this is the thing about the risk. I wonder, you know, if these people really sat down and really evaluated the risk that they're getting themselves into with this thing. Because again, it's one thing to just, you look at this, it's one thing to analyze something at the kind of initial face value, which is that, okay, I'm looking at a probability of 1 over 107. So that means I should get it around like in about 107 tries. So you're going to kind of budget out yourself like, okay, I'm going to assume it's going to take, what, 107 times? Like, you have to, you know, budget out some number of tries that you're going to assume, you're going to hope that you get it by that many, because you can't go out to infinity. You have to hope that you're going to actually hit the item, because theoretically, you could literally play the entire league and never get this. You could literally just play the whole league and just, it never hits. And then what are you going to do? So this is my question is, you know, was that, how thoroughly was that considered? You have to consider these things. So let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna answer one question in this video. What's the probability after, for example, you have the probability of success is 1 over 107. So what's the probability of doing it, let's say 107 trials, we can call this trials, Bernoulli trials, 107 tries, 107 trials, and no success? What's that probability? So what percent of the time, if we do our expected number of trials, 107, what percent of the time are we going to end up with all of our currency went into the void and we didn't get anything from it? We failed 107 times in a row. Well, what that's going to be is when you flip your coin, you got your heads, tails coin here. You're going to flip it, and 1 out of 107 times, you're going to get a success, and 106 times out of 107, you're going to get a failure. Again, I sure hope I'm doing this right, but I'm pretty darn sure I am, and you'll let me know if I make a mistake. So the first time you flip this coin that has a success of 107, you've got the 1 over 107 chance of a success, and you got a 106 over 107 chance that you don't hit what you're looking for. You need to go ahead and re-roll it again. So now let's say you re-roll it again. You've got your success, you got your failure, and your failure, once again, is going to have a chance of 106 out of 107. So now you've rolled it twice, and both times you hit a failure, okay? So then you're going to have to roll it again, flip the coin again. Once again, you got success, failure. Failure is 106 over 107, and then you basically just end up multiplying this together some number of times. This is 1 trial, 2 trial, 3 trials. And so if you do 3 trials, it's going to be basically 106 over 107 times itself 3 times, so to the 3rd power, equals, so this is going to give you 106 over 107 to the 3rd power is after 3 tries, no success. Okay? So a buddy of mine had to kind of help me remind me, because I'm not that great at probability. So I actually called a buddy of mine who's super good at math, and he just immediately spit this out, that it's just this, and then, oh yeah, of course it is just that. So this is how you derive it. you keep going on this chain of all failures, and that's going to tell you that theoretical path where you're just failing every single time. And that's what we're interested in, because you only have to succeed one time and then you move on to and then you're just done with it. Okay? So now let's analyze this. Okay? So here's the question. If you do this trial 107 times, what is the chance that you never got the success? So you've wasted all your currency. Okay? That is going to be right down here. Okay? So let's get some colors in here. Okay? Right here. So this is the percent chance that you've done it 107 trials, and this is the chance of failing. Yep, so chance of failing 107 times is this. It's 36%. So this is what I'm wondering, you know, this is all I want everybody to think about here is all this being considered? This means that these people that do this, and Belton is the one who's taking all the risk. It's exactly what he described in his own post. He's assuming all the risk here. He's putting himself in the position to get totally hosed. I guess I'll say hosed. Maybe I'll try to use some more family-friendly language for YouTube. He's putting himself in the position to get totally hosed. And this is the chance, basically. So when let's say he budgets out 107 trials. Let's say everybody before the league starts, they all agree like, okay, yeah, I'm going to pitch in this much, I'm going to pitch in this much, and it adds up to 107 locks. If he does that, then he keeps playing Path of Exile, he keeps getting subscribers and making videos, then about 1/3 of the time, so basically every third league, so this is going to happen like at least about once a year, he's going to spend 107 locks, and it's not going to hit. And then he's going to have nothing. And then they're going to have to reformulate. Now what are we going to do? We've spent 107 locks and we have nothing. And when you spend the one after you've done that, now that you're in that position, so now you've spent the 107 locks and now you have absolutely nothing and you're starting over from scratch at that point, you might have to go get another 107 locks. So now the question, so let's look at some other cases, okay? What's the probability that you do 200 trials, okay? So you're going to do 200, so now you've budgeted, I'm willing to spend 200 locks. What's the probability that I'm going to fail 200 times? That is 15%. This is the thing. This number is, I mean, in my opinion, this is like a large number. So now we're at 15%. So that means, okay, so what's 15? So that's about 1 out of every, what is that, 15? Is that 6? Is that about 1 out of 6? Yeah, it's about 90. We'll call it 1 out of 6. So about 1 out of 6 times. So that means it's going to happen basically about every year and a half. He's going to put himself in this position where he's now spent 200 locks and gotten nothing. And now he's putting himself in this position of getting totally hosed. Now he's going to have to do these crazy 20-hour days, put himself in the hospital, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you just, to me, the crazy thing about this is it's like, it's kind of like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure here, because locks are just, they're really expensive, you know? So, I mean, I guess he should be super rich every league, but, so I guess this isn't supposed to matter, but now it does matter, because now you have him getting canceled and he makes this long post blaming the 107 chance Hinakor's lock where it took him 300 times. I think he said it took him 320 times. So let's look at that. Let's look at that situation, okay? What's the probability if you do the Hinakor's lock now 300 times? What's the probability? 6%. Now we're getting to the probabilities where it's getting more to where this shouldn't really happen, but 6% is, you know, it's not a negligible percentage, you know. Now, if he just plays PoE every league, and he tries to do this every league, and he's assuming I'm going to be the mirror guy every league, now what's 6%? So that's about what, 1 in 20, something like that? So now every 20 leagues. So now every 5 years, expected, he's going to get hit with this. He's going to get hit every 5 years, where this situation that totally hosed him this league will happen about every 5 years. And then just for fun, I went ahead and just did a couple more, okay? 2% chance, there's about a little bit over a 2% chance that you're not going to get it in 400 times. There's about a 1% chance you're not going to get it in 500 times, everybody. So remember this. When you're playing PoE, when you're doing all this stuff with all these orbs, and you're starting to think about doing something crazy like this, remember this. Remember not to totally forget about the actual risk side of things. And this is basically how you calculate it. 1% is a non-negligible chance. That's 1 out of every 100 people that try this this is going to happen. You got multiple mirror teams going every league. This is going to happen. PoE has like millions of players. This 1% is going to be a ton of people that this is going to happen to, and you're totally effing yourself, basically, whenever this happens, especially when you put yourself in the position that he put himself in, where he's essentially accumulated a ton of debt. If you are not in debt and you take these risks, it's a whole nother different story than if you... All this stuff has real-life equivalents, but I'm not going to explain everyone, but just keep this in mind for your real life, please. Also, if you happen to be listening to this and thinking about your real-life financials, think about this. When you put yourself in debt, all the people that I enjoy listening to on YouTube and that I watch for financial stuff, everyone hammers this point home. When you start taking on the debt, and when you couple debt with risk taking, okay, probability of getting absolutely effing crushed. Absolutely crushed, okay? So I don't think anybody really talked about that. It's kind of crazy how I feel like that was kind of the reason why a lot of this stuff happened. It kind of, he basically put himself in the position to get crushed, and then he got crushed, which is basically guaranteed to happen every once in a while. So it's like, did he have that planned out? I guess not. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about, okay, so that was point one. Let's go ahead and do point two. Okay, point two is the money making. Show me those divvies, show me those divine orbs. Let's make some money aspect of it. So the money aspect, again, made 42,000 divine orbs. Let's assume that's all profit, which it doesn't even necessarily sound like it is, but let's assume that's pure profit. And then spent 71 plus 7 mirrors. We're going to estimate a mirror at 800 divine orbs, all right? And just checking on my time here. All right, this is going to be a long video again, everybody. Here we go. So it means I'm going to try to speed up a little bit, but that's okay because this point's really simple. So all right, so we've got 88 mirror cost. We got 42K divine orb. I'm gonna assume it's profit. Doesn't say specifically. Y'all can let me know in the comments if you know. If you know about all this stuff and you know kind of what the average profit of doing all these different mirror crafts is, let me know. I'll be curious, interested. I know there's people that follow Belton that follow this channel, so. Okay, so 88 mirrors. So, all right, so we're going to say one mirror. Let's just say 800 divine orbs. So let's convert this. So you've got 42,000. Let's just call it 40,000. And then we'll do the 800. So if it was 80,000. So 80,000. This is just me doing this off the cuff, being nervous. I'm going to make myself look like an idiot. Equals, what is that? How many mirrors is that? 100 mirrors. Okay, so this is 50 mirrors. Okay, so they basically made around 50 mirrors in profit, and the cost was basically 88 mirrors. Is anybody talking about this? I didn't see anyone talk about this. This isn't good, right? This is like garbage, right? This is like a terrible return. Is this the average mirror return? The crazy thing is, again, I'm making these YouTube videos. I may have a league where I have I don't know, several mirrors. I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is going to end up, but I could in theory have a couple people tell me they want to do this. Hey, Belton's canceled. Do you want to take up the mantle? I don't want to take up the mantle. And here's of doing the mirror crafting. And here's why, is because this return is fucking garbage. This is fucking shit. Okay, this is absolute fucking shit. This return. Your cost was 88 mirrors, and that's. Most of the cost is put in at the beginning of the league, so it's even worse. It's even worse. This isn't even as bad as it is. I mean, so you're making like what profit is that? I mean, that's what, if this was 100 mirrors, that'd be basically 50% profit. This is pretty close. What is that? I don't know, 60% profit or something like that? Is that right? Let's see, that'd be 9 times 6. So 45. It's pretty close. Let's call it 65% profit. Am I doing the math right? Whatever, let's call it 69% profit, okay? So you've made a 69% profit doing this whole process. He said it took him, hundreds of hours. He said it took him hundreds of hours, weeks, and he ended up in the hospital doing 20-hour days for a 69% profit. What is going on here, people? Am I missing something? Again, let me know if I'm missing something. I'm taking this straight from the post that he wrote. Everything is straight from the post. What am I missing here? This isn't the good profit. This is shit. This is garbage profit. So I'm gonna make a video. I'm gonna make a video before the next league of what I'm gonna call basically like a wealth management strategy, for Path of Exile. This isn't good. This is garbage. Okay, you can do so much better than this. And the reason I know that for sure, I'm making this video in Settlers of Kalguur League. We have essentially a stock market now. So we now have a market where you can just easily buy and sell all this stuff. It's easy. And we can track and see the price of everything. We've always had PoE Ninja, or however long it's been around. So let's end this segment, okay, with this. Let's end it with this. So we figured out that these people, after literally working 20 hours a day, sending to the hospital, made a 69% return. Unless I missed something, someone's gonna have to let me know. Again, taking it straight from the post. Now what we have here, this is a graph of a specific orb in the game that if you go on PoE Ninja right now, you can see the price history of the orb starting from week 1 of the league. So this point here is week 1. This is about week 2. This is about week 3. And this here is how many divine orbs this thing cost. So here's 0 divine orbs all the way up to, this is 2,000, 1,500 divine orbs. This is 100 right here. So week 1, this item was around 100 divine orbs? Am I getting this right? Yeah, it was about 100 divine orbs. Maybe it was chaos. Maybe this was chaos orbs. Yeah, this was chaos orbs. Sorry, I got a little bit confused here. This is chaos orbs. So it was about 100 chaos orbs at the beginning of the league. I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter because it's all percentage gain, so it doesn't matter what this could be, shekels. It doesn't matter. I think they're chaos orbs. So this was 100 chaos orbs in week 1. In week 2, it went up to about 500 chaos orbs. Week 3, it went up to about 1,000 chaos orbs. And now, 2.5 months in, we're at 2,000 chaos orbs. So for every 100 chaos orbs that you put in week 1, every 100 C in week 1, and mind you, everything with this BeltonPOE situation, this is all early league stuff. They want to get in early, put the money in early, so when he's talking about spending 100, 200, 300 Hinacor's locks, these are early league Hinacor's locks. I mean, literally, what if they had literally just kept the locks? It's crazy. I haven't looked at locks. But we have an orb here that we can buy for 100 chaos, week 1. Week 2, we can buy it for 500 chaos. And when we get to today, a couple months later, okay, you're at 2K. So if you spend all the money, if you make all the money week 1, if you go hard, and for 100 chaos, you end up with a 2,000 to 2,000 chaos. You end up with going from a 100 chaos item to a 2,000, chaos item. That is a 20x return. 20x. Okay, what's the percent on that? What is that, 2,000%? So they're here, he's there breaking his back over a 69% return, and he could literally just keep buying this orb and end up with a fucking 2,000% return. Someone is going to have to tell me in the comments what I'm missing here, because it seems crazy. I have to be missing something, right? But I really don't think I am, though, is the crazy thing. So now my question to you is, what item was this? What item was this? Because you could accuse me and say, well, you're looking at everything in the past, so you couldn't have predicted that. So my question to you is, go ahead and you got about 2 seconds to guess what orb this was. You can pause. I'm going to tell you what orb this is. So 3, 2, 1. All right, this is a veiled chaos orb. I don't think anyone can really accuse me of looking back in hindsight and saying, oh, well, you're just looking in hindsight. That's the only reason you know this is going to go up in value. Don't veiled chaos orbs pretty much do this every league? Am I mistaken there? I don't think I am. So I think you have like a pretty safe bet to just load all your extra currency into veiled chaos orbs if you're just looking for like a percentage gain versus, say, chaos or divine orbs gain. Let's do one more quick one here. All right, so this is another item that I looked at. Okay, week 1, you go on PoE Ninja, for some reason there's like a day 1 drop, and then it went to about 100 chaos orbs on week 1. Week 2, about maybe, still it was about 100. Week 3 went up to about 1,000. Then around week 6, we're at about 2,000. And now here, month 2.5, month 2, this was month 2, 3.5 thousand. So here we went from about a 100 chaos, if you load it up in the first 2 to 3 weeks you had on this item, 100 chaos, load up on them, and then you end up in today's currency league, 3.5 thousand chaos. 100 to 3.5 thousand. Put your money in there. Put your money in there. Okay, you got about 2 seconds to guess which item this one is. 2, 1, 0. This is a what's it called? Reflecting mist. All right, quick 1-minute story. When I started the league, I was playing at the beginning of the league. I was looking at everything. correct me if I'm wrong, these were introduced this league, and I was like week 1, week 2, and I looked on PoE Ninja and I looked at the prices and they were stable for like 2 or 3 weeks. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm going to use a lot of these this league. I'm going to buy a ton of these reflecting mists this league. Like, I'm going to use so many of them. They seem so powerful. And I didn't buy any of them because they were just stable for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row at 100 chaos. And I was like, okay, well, the value is 100 chaos. When you know that something is super valuable and you know it feels like it's undervalued, you got to make a move and you got to start purchasing them. Don't be an idiot like me. Buy the reflecting mists. I knew that this was like one of the only items in the league that I was literally thinking like, wow, it seems like such a good deal. I'm not going to buy them, but it seems like they just came out this league. I'm not sure. I'm not going to take the risk because I don't know what's going to happen. And I just started again after a long break. Well, I was right. They went to freaking 3,500 chaos. So what's the better deal here? What are these people doing? Someone let me know. What's going on here? Someone solve this mystery for me. Why are they breaking their backs for a 69% return when you can get a 20 times or a 35 times return just by buying Veiled Chaos Orbs and Reflecting Mists? Someone solve that puzzle for me, please. All right, final point I want to make is one of my favorite YouTubers right now is Subtractum. Can't read that at all. Subtractum. One of my favorite YouTube videos. Basically, every video he makes I think is pretty good, and I learned from it, and just a great YouTuber. And I was watching one of his videos, and he was talking about making money and all these different strategies, and he talked about making a mirror and making 2 mirrors and how you could make all these different mirrors. And he basically said the following. He said, basically, if I have a build that's worth 1 mirror, then what does that equal? A 1 mirror build for him equals basically, you know, the build is done at that point, basically, in his view. His build is basically done once it's around a 1 mirror. I think he said it was about 1 mirror. You know, maybe sometimes he does 2 mirrors. His build is done, and he can do basically anything he wants to do in the game. So this is the final point I want to make is when I'm looking at all this stuff like, you know, 10 mirrors, 20 mirrors, they're trying to make a 69% profit, you know, flipping 100 mirrors into 169 mirrors. Like, what are you even going to do with, like, to be honest, what are you going to do with 169 mirrors in Path of Exile? It's like, you know, you've got MP this league making these videos where he's using a default attack, and I'm pretty sure he's way short of 169 mirrors. I don't remember exactly. I've already kind of forgot that. And what are you going to do with it? Like, why? So if anybody ever asks me, hey, do you want to take up the mantle? You're doing YouTube now, and maybe I end up with a bunch of subscribers, and I like this. I like the mirror crafting. It's interesting and cool. Like, it's got a cool mystique to it. But then they ask me, like, hey, you want to take the mantle? Hell no. Hell no. What am I even gaining? I'm not gaining anything. You're assuming a crap ton of risk, and you don't gain anything. Here's my final thought on it. So, you know, nowadays, like, when I think about this, like, having 169 mirrors in Path of Exile, I just kind of imagine, like, these people on those television shows that are, like, the extreme hoarders, or not extreme hoarders, they're the couponers is what I'm talking about. Have you ever seen those shows of, like, extreme couponing, where you have people, and they'll take coupons where you can buy, like, 10,000 of some item, and then they, like, keep them all in their house? That's what I imagine with all this stuff. I imagine somebody who's got, like, all these boxes in their house, and one of them says, like, ketchup. It's like ketchup bottles, and it's a box with like 69 ketchup bottles, and they've got like a whole bunch of these like all throughout their house, like all these boxes of ketchup bottles and like mayonnaise bottles. It's got like 420 bottles of mayonnaise, and they're just like stacked all over their house. And then finally, you know, in the corner, you see in another corner, it says, you know, like mirrors of Kalandra. And it's a box of like 169 mirrors of Kalandra. Big box. That's kind of what I imagine with this stuff at this point. It's hard to see what the point of even doing this is. I understand it is kind of cool. There is a mystique to it. It sounds kind of fun. Like, maybe I'd do it like 1 league. I'm sure it'll never happen, but like, I don't know. I don't even know what I would do with 169 mirrors of Kalandra. So this is kind of my final thought. He put himself in this position where he assumed all this risk. He's got debt. He's in the situation where there's these probabilities of just absolutely getting hosed, coupling it with debt for a 69% return, when all you need is basically 1 mirror to finish your build, generally speaking, in Path of Exile. I don't really understand it. And yeah, I think that wasn't, that's my final thoughts. I'm not going to talk about this again. I may mention it in passing once or two more times in random videos because it is interesting to compare these things, you know, and compare percentage gains. Now we have an idea of a percentage gain. Somebody let me know if there's other info I can see of the typical expected return on mirror crafts, because I am going to mention this in some other videos. That's the end. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Sub, please. If somehow you're still here in the video watching, listening, you haven't subbed, go ahead and hit me with that. If you enjoyed the video, if you like this type of content, I'll mention real quick a couple of future videos I plan on making. Some of the stuff I'm planning on making, one of them I kind of mentioned. I want to talk about like wealth. I want to talk about like a wealth management strategy in PoE. I want to make that video before the next league. I want to talk about exactly what I just talked about, but like a dedicated video going through some different items and talking about different items fluctuating, raising and lowering. And I think for next league, and maybe a little bit this league, kind of gold farming. I think I'm going to go in on gold farming because I really do love the currency exchange aspect, and how you essentially become a market maker. You're providing liquidity and you're putting buy and sell orders. You can make so much money. It's just absolutely crazy. You can blow this mirror crafting stuff absolutely out of the water, no question asked, doing gold farming. So I think I'm going to probably focus, for next league, I think I'm going to focus on gold farming. So in case you're on the fence of whether you want to subscribe or not, and just in general, this is what's coming on the channel, I think. I'm probably going to go in on gold farming. I'm going to talk about wealth management, buying and selling different orbs at different types of the leagues. That seems like kind of an interesting thing to me. And I'm also got one that I'm just about to record talking about liquidity in markets and becoming a market maker, being a market maker. It's going to be a follow-up to my Flippers Are Evil video that I made where everybody was telling me I was a toxic sewage rat, parasite, bottom feeder in the comments. I'm going to do my final, it'll be my final follow-up on that. I won't make another one after that. Also talking about market liquidity and how you're adding liquidity in the market with actually good, perfect stance on it. And this will be the final one I'm going to go out on. My last I'll call these just chatting videos. My last just chatting video that was like this, I talked about, you know, my view of the world, like that there's no free will and stuff like that. For anybody that's interested in that, because the only main comment I got about that was pretty much people telling me I'm a lunatic and I'm lost in the sauce, basically, of the philosophical sauce. I'm gonna leave a link to a Robert Sapolsky video in the comments if I remember, or otherwise just Google this guy. And if you're interested, I really recommend this guy. He's a really great speaker, interesting. And my worldview is whatever this guy says, that's my worldview, basically. And since there's nowhere else in any video I'm ever going to make to be able to mention this, I just want to say one last final thing I thought was kind of funny. In the last video, I was talking about, you know, like Taoism and Buddhism and all this stuff. These things I'm interested in. Buddhism recently, especially, I've been learning more and more about slowly. And I know surely there's Asmongold watchers here. And Asmongold, I just have to, this has nothing to do with anything, and this is the last thing I'm going to say in this video. Asmongold made this video recently. It was called like Why I Lived Like an Animal for like 15 or 13 years or something like that. It was like Why I've Been Living Like an Animal. It was a really interesting video. I really enjoyed it a lot, and he's just, you know, an interesting guy. And by the end of the video, he basically walked through how he's essentially, and in the last Just Chatting video, you know, I was talking about all this Buddhism stuff where I randomly picked there was some line. Oh yeah, it was right here. And it said, the Buddha's efforts are to destroy attachment to things. Destroy attachment to gain, status, praise, pleasure, and their opposites. That video, you know, it's the same stuff. And he's kind of just coming to the conclusion on his own. And as I mentioned, these are life philosophies that I can probably get down with, even as a person that thinks life is totally pointless. You got to do something. So I just wanted to mention, it was so funny in that video. I was planning and making that video that I made, and then Asmon made that video, and I was thinking about all this stuff around the same time. And one of the commenters in that video of the Asmongold video, it's a good video. You can go watch it if you'd like Asmongold if you haven't seen it already. And he basically said, Asmongold in this video essentially re-derived Buddhism from scratch. He basically just went through the whole process of Buddhism from zero to just ending up being a Buddhist, basically. And I loved that comment, and it's so funny because it's so true. It's so funny. And that's it. I just wanted to put that out there because I thought it was funny and interesting. That's the end of the video. Subscribe. I'll see you in the next ones. I'm going to keep making videos, so see you later. Shout out to the 300 first subs. Peace. Wow, this was a long video. Let's see who makes it to the end. See you later.